Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pursuing Business in College, our third workshop of GFBCon 2022. I'm Rachel Wang, and I am the founder and executive director of Girls for Business. I will pass it over to Ivy now.
Sorry, one second. Hello, everyone. I'm Ivy, a co-founder and co-director of operations of Girls for Business. And we are so excited to see everyone. Thank you all so much for joining today. A special thank you to our wonderful panelists, Ms. Angela Xu, Ms. Vivienne Sam, and Ms. Lauren Volkodav for speaking today. I'll pass it over to Angelica, the co-director of outreach at Girls for Business, also a co-host of today's event.
Hi, everyone. So if you've been attending our events at GFBCon today, you'll probably remember me. I'm Angelica. I'm one of the co-directors of outreach at Girls for Business. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us today for this workshop. And we hope you've been having an amazing experience at GFBCon and an amazing weekend. So just to warm everyone up, could everyone just type your name, grade, and maybe favorite club that you're in high school, or just organization that you're involved in, or anything related to business in the chat. And also maybe what you're most interested within business. So I'm Angelica. I'm a rising senior from Maryland in the US, and I'm really interested in marketing and management and also the entertainment industry and an intersection of those things. I would say some of my favorite clubs are DECA probably, which allows you to intersect a lot of things. And also the English Honor Society at my school, which I'm really involved in. So that's some of my, those are some of my interests. And hopefully while those roll in the chat, you guys learn more about each other. And a huge shout out to people who are coming in and coming in at different times of the day, just like in random time zones. I know it might be a struggle for some of you, but thank you so much for joining us today and hope to learn more about everyone here. So today at Pursuing Business in College, we hope to give you guys a sneak peek into the college application process and what business in college kind of looks like with our three amazing panelists. They're really experienced and they're going to be pursuing business-related pathways at a range of amazing schools. So they'll be sharing with you unique perspectives and exclusive education and career tips, as well as tips in the process of applying for and studying business in college. So I'll go through a full rundown of today's event structure. I think we have a couple of slides on that. But first, I'll be briefly introducing our organization and sharing our initiatives with you all. I'll try to keep it short, especially if you've already been at some of our events today. Our panelists will then be introducing themselves more and sharing their general experiences with you all. And then we'll be segueing into the main portion of our event, which is our panel discussion. And we'll be able to have our panelists offer more insights on their application process, studying and their college experiences or applying to college experiences based on some of the topics and questions we received from you guys in our RSVP form. And we'll also give you guys a chance to ask questions live during the discussion. And then finally, we'll wrap up at around 3:45 Eastern Standard Time with panelist contact information, as well as how to get involved with our organization and future events, as well as the rest of today's conference. And we'll also be taking a Zoom group photo in the middle. So without further ado, sorry, a little bit about Girls for Business. So we are a global student-led nonprofit dedicated to empowering girls interested in exploring business pathways. And we were established 2 years ago in the summer, and we're driven by over 120 members. Since business is so scarce, our mission is to, or scarce in the school curriculum, our business is to encourage middle and high school girls in pursuing a business pathway through provision of educational resources. So we offer mentorship, resource, and community programs and initiatives. And our mentorship program provides free one-on-one mentorship to over 150 student mentees who receive guidance from college students and business professionals. We also release bi-weekly newsletters and create accessible media content, as well as host monthly virtual events and annual conferences like the one you're at right now. And through our community initiative, Girls for Business has built a community of girls from over 40 countries internationally. And we definitely wouldn't be here without you guys attending our events. So thank you so much for all of your support. And now I'm so excited to pass it on to one of my outreach co-directors, Beth, to introduce our panelists today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Beth, and I'm an outreach coordinator at Girls for Business. Today, you'll be hearing from Angela Zhu, Ms. Vivienne Sam, and Lauren Volkodav.
Yeah, and our panelists will be introducing themselves and sharing their general experiences a little bit more in the next few slides so you can all get to know them. So we'll first start with Angela, and then we'll go in the order that I'll type in the chat. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Angela and take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Angelica and Sophie, for the introduction and for organizing this panel. But I'm Angela. I just graduated from high school in Michigan this summer. So I'll be an incoming freshman at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. And I'm really excited to be here just to kind of answer as many questions as I can about applying to college, because I just went through it and I know it can be super confusing and stressful. But as of right now, I'm planning to concentrate in business economics and public policy, or BPP, and business analytics. But I kind of really want to just try anything. I don't really know what I want to do in the business field yet. So I really plan on joining a ton of different business related clubs and courses at Wharton. So we'll see where I end up. But kind of talking a bit more about what I did in high school. So I don't think I was ever like 100% committed to just business related extracurriculars. I was super interested in the intersections of business, tech, and social impact. So on the social impact side of things, I was involved in a ton of nonprofits, especially related to gender equity, such as Girls for Business, as well as educational equity. And then on the more STEM side of things, I also did research in high school. And then I also taught robotics classes at a local nonprofit. But moving on to my more business-centered extracurriculars that I did in high school, I was director business from 2020 to 2022. And then what we did was we just organized the mentorship program at Girls for Business, which I would definitely recommend trying out if you are interested in the business field and are looking for guidance. And then I also did DECA. I know a lot of people here are familiar with it, but if you have it at your school, I would definitely recommend joining. It was super, super fun. And I had a great time just meeting tons of people there. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. And I'm super excited to be here today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angela. And I'll pass it to Lauren to introduce herself next.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Volkodav and I will be an incoming freshman at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. At Girls for Business, I was the business analytics writer, and throughout high school, I was interested in a variety of opportunities in journalism and the intersection of business and technology, especially in some research I did with Bitcoin in El Salvador and the impact that it had on sustainable economic development. And at St. Andrews, I plan on studying computer science, economics, and I'm not sure about my third subject. I know international universities are a bit different than the way that they're structured in America. So at St. Andrews, you have to choose 3 majors, as you would call it in America. So if anyone is interested in applying to an international university, especially in the UK, I can offer some guidance and answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much, Lauren. And then I'll pass it to Vivienne to introduce herself as well.
All right, thank you for that, Angelica. I'm Vivienne Sam. I'm going to be an incoming freshman at the University of Toronto at Rutman Commerce, which is their business program. I don't know exactly what I want to study yet. You kind of decide that your sophomore going into junior year. But I know, like, as of now, I'm really interested in like real estate and international business. Kind of on like what I did in high school for business was like part of DECA. And then also I was the director of outreach for Girls for Business last year. So you guys could have seen me co-host some events in the past. And a little fun fact about me, I was a snowboard instructor throughout high school. So.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now that everyone's introduced themselves a little bit, we'll be transitioning to our panel discussion, where our panelists will delve deeper into their personal and professional experiences and also share some of their unique perspectives.
Yeah, thank you so much, Beth. And we'll first be starting off with a couple of the most frequently asked questions and requested topics from you guys in the RSVP form. So to any of our panelists, if any question speaks to you particularly throughout the discussion, please feel free to chime in. And then we'll be opening up the floor to live questions about halfway through our discussion time later. So I'll pass it to Beth to ask our first question to you guys.
Okay. So our first and most frequently asked question to all of our panelists is, what do you think was the most important thing you did in high school that made you stand out in your college applications?
So,
Oh, Lauren, do you want to start?
sure, and I'll pass it on to you. I think for me, it was participating in unique extracurriculars. Like I did research with a professor at Columbia, which I don't think too many people have the opportunity to do. So kind of highlighting that on my college applications, I think was really helpful, especially with international universities that want to see a lot of rigor in a particular subject. Yeah, and back to you, Angela.
Thanks. Yeah, I would agree with what Lauren said. For me, I don't think there was like one specific thing that made my application stand out regarding like what I did in high school, but I think I would say that one thing that helped me stand out was when I was pursuing things to do in high school, doing things that I was personally really interested in. So for me, that was social impact. And I found that when I was doing the things that I was actually interested in and not the things that just everyone at my school was doing, it made it a lot easier when it came time to apply to colleges to be able to craft a story and kind of explain why I chose to do those activities instead of just having like awards or just stats about those. So I think just telling that story helped your application stand out.
Yeah, and I can add to this. I agree with both of them. It's kind of just for me, I did a little bit of everything. Like everyone could have done what I could have done pretty much is what I'm saying, but it's kind of like the way that you explain it in your application. Toronto was a little bit different from like the US schools. It wasn't like you had a personal statement, had like questions. It was kind of an on the spot, especially for the business program, was like an on the spot thing. So you had interviews and then you had a timed essay. So I think they were kind of really looking for how you think like on the spot and having that like business mindset already, which is really helpful. And then you can learn that through doing like clubs and extracurriculars in high school and stuff. So I really encourage you guys to, join DECA or like be a part of Girls for Business, which was really helpful and stuff. So.
Yeah, thank you all so much for answering that question. I think it kind of ties into, like Vivienne, what you said ties into my next question from pulling from the RSVP form, which you guys might answer differently because you're all like going to school in different countries. So the question is sort of like, sorry, I need to read it again, but it's like, what was like the main advice or piece of advice? What is the main piece of advice you would give to applying to, I guess, your specific college or your experiences within the college application process? And I think there are multiple questions about this, but what most people wanted to know was how that international aspect was different for each of you, if that makes sense.
So I know with schools in the UK, I applied to several schools around the UK and as well in the United States, but I know when I was applying, a lot of, the admissions officers here were telling me about how they look at the holistic picture. And, most schools in the US are test optional versus in the UK, test scores are very important. And it's probably 50 to 60% of their decision is based off of your test scores. So having high scores, at least for St. Andrews, is really important, as well as showing strong character on your application as well. I know when I was using the Common App, I tried to show my personality and my interests a bit more heavily than when I used UCAS, which is the UK version of the Common App, where I highlighted my academic achievements and test scores.
So I only applied to colleges in the US, and all of those were on the Common App that Lauren talked about earlier, but I can kind of talk about like that process a bit. So I think with like college applications in the US, once again, like Lauren mentioned, it is still a holistic process, but I think a lot more emphasis is placed on essays. So my advice would definitely be to start early on those application essays, because a lot of schools will require you to write like 2 or 3 or 4 supplemental essays. So depending on how many schools you do want to apply to, it's probably best not to rush through the process at the very end. So try to start planning your essays as early as possible. And then kind of like a tip that's kind of similar to that is getting comfortable with a narrative type of writing style before you start applying to college, because I think something that a lot of students aren't familiar with is that the essays you're using to apply to, at least for US colleges, is going to be a lot different from the ones you're writing in school. So it's not going to be like a research paper or a 5-paragraph essay. It's going to be structured a lot more similar to, I guess, like a memoir. So something that helped me a lot is just kind of getting used to that type of writing style. So whether that's like reading memoirs, journaling, or just reading like sample essays online, I found that really helpful when getting started with the college application process for US schools.
Yeah. And I do want to add to Angela, like everything she said is completely correct. And like a really important thing is the colleges just want to know you. So try not to like write what the schools want you to be, just write about like, honestly, they just want to know who you are, right? So just be really like, just be who you are in your essays, honestly. I know it's cheesy, but like it's true. But for my Canadian applications, I actually didn't apply to many Canadian schools. I had like a very select few that I wanted to go to. Like for me, my mindset was if I didn't get into these schools, I would just go to like an in-state school because I'm from Washington. But I applied to like 3 Ontario schools using the OUAC. So you get 3 schools in that. So I applied to Western, York, and Toronto, obviously. And I would say for Ontario, at least, they're very much like, they look at your academics, because I didn't write any essays for them. And then for the programs that you want to get into, that's when they have more supplemental stuff. So I did all the business programs for those 3 schools, and they had like their supplementals were like, you know, I mentioned it earlier, like timed essays and interviews. If you want to get into that specific business program. And then I also applied to UBC, which is in British Columbia. That is very much more like the US, I would say. So I had to write like 6 essays for them, actually. It was a lot. And I would say they're much more similar to like Common App than like the actual Canadian schools, like as their application process. But if you guys have any more questions about Canadian schools, feel free to ask me, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I'm really glad that you guys emphasize that you need to be yourself, and how the structure of the essays are more toward your personal style and your voice, which is really important. Another question that was popular was, how did you know that you wanted to go into business and really find the intersections you were interested in?
So because all of us are so young, I would assume it's difficult to understand exactly what you want to pursue for your lifelong career now. So what I'm doing is exploring different areas, especially it's nice to research cross intersections of business, business and tech, business in entrepreneurship with VCs. So because I'm not sure right now what I want to get into with my career, so I'm taking different classes to try to find what I'm interested in. I'm also really interested in computer science and engineering, as well as business. And the really great thing about business is that it can be intersected with so many different career paths. So if you're interested in something else, oftentimes you can intersect it with business as well, which is kind of a philosophy I have going into college, to try different classes to make sure what I'm going to study and what my eventual career will be is something that I'm truly interested in and will enjoy.
My rationale is actually pretty similar to Lauren's. In high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I was kind of just participating in a tons of clubs and seeing what I liked, and I found that I really enjoyed DACA as well as being part of GFB. But when applying to college, I think my thinking was kind of like business is such a broad field, and like Lauren said, it's so easy to be interdisciplinary in the field of business. So you can combine that with engineering, you can combine it with like, the medical field. So there is still a lot of opportunities for you to combine several different interests outside of just within the business field. So that was one reason. And then also, just like I said before, business is so broad that you can kind of really take a business degree in so many different directions, whether you want to go into more with the analytical side with like finance, or more into management, marketing, things like that. There really is a lot of opportunities to kind of use a business degree to find like what you really want to do. So that was really comforting for me, because I still have no clue what I want to do in the future. So that's kind of why I chose to apply as a business major.
No, yeah. If I was just gonna like speak again, it would just be repeating what they said. But I do want to add. I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I would agree with them. You know, business is such a like broad. You know, like you can pursue anything in business pretty much. Oh yeah, I remember in high school I like was trying to find things I didn't like first. You know, to like cross those out. So I tried a comp sci class my freshman year, hated it. So I knew comp sci was not my thing. Also hated science, so not going in healthcare. So you know, I kind of was left with business. No, but I really do find business interesting. You know, you can do anything with a degree in business, and I think the biggest thing for me that like attracted me to business was like when you're older, like you can take anything out of it, you know, like using your business degree, you can kind of be your own person. I'm really into entrepreneurship as well, you know, owning your own business eventually, and just like taking it your own way. And I feel like if you're like in a cubicle 9 to 5 in comp sci, like that's not my vibe. So that's kind of what I ended with. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And I think like at least like the leadership, like Rachel and I have definitely seen you guys, like your involvement with our organization has been really inspiring. And we definitely think that like what the passion you have found is something that you're really committed to. So it's really admirable. Going into our next question, this is kind of about the selection process of colleges before admission. So what was the stuff that was most important to you on your list of criteria for choosing the colleges you wanted to apply to going into that process?
So when I was looking at universities, one of the kind of key weeding out factors was prestige, size, location, and their academic offerings. So all of the universities I looked at had excellent academic offerings and, you know, opportunities to do research and pursue any interest you have, because, you know, most of them have like large endowments to invest into research. So I wanted a school that was a mid-sized university, about 10,000 students. So most of the schools I applied to were between 7,000 to 12,000 students, and St. Andrews ended up being 10,000 students, and they have opportunities to specialize in your academic choosings from freshman year. And one of my favorite things about them is that they have no core classes, so you only take classes for the 3 subjects that you choose, which is really nice. So if you're an English major, you don't have to take any math classes or science classes, or if you're a math major, you take only math courses, which is pretty awesome. And then they have a really nice community feel on campus. So if you get a chance to visit universities now that COVID is over, I think getting a feel for the campus and the student body and the community you will find there is really important.
Yeah, for me, I also wanted to go to a mid or like a larger size college. And then I also knew I wanted to go out of state just to kind of experience a new environment. And then outside of like just like rankings and prestige, another thing I was looking for was just kind of how flexible the curriculum was, because like I mentioned before, I did also want to have interest or kind of learn like STEM courses as well as just like social impact, things like that. So when I was doing my research, I was looking at for colleges that did emphasize a more interdisciplinary education, because I knew I wanted to be able to apply business to other subjects and things like that. So that was just one of the other things I was researching.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of similar to Angela and Lauren as well. But a big thing for me was actually tuition. So I'm also a Canadian citizen. So as a Canadian citizen, you get to pay like their tuition, which is really nice instead of international, which is very much more affordable than the US schools. I don't know about the UK, but I also wanted like, a good name as well as like, does anyone? But I also really looked into like the opportunities that could be in the city itself, not just at the school. So Toronto is a very large city and it's out on the east, which I really want to be like, near New York, near you guys as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I believe we have time for one more question, which is, what is your biggest tip on balancing extracurriculars, academics, and social life?
So I think I took a bit of a unconventional approach with my high school education. So I started the first 2 years of high school at a boarding school, which allowed me significantly more time to spend on schoolwork because you're living at school. So you cut out all the transportation time, and your teachers live in the dorm with you, so you have access to that 24/7, which was good. But of course, your day is completely packed, especially if you're in multiple clubs. So after my sophomore year ended, I decided, with COVID, to continue doing online school for the rest of, I guess, until I graduated. I've been online, which has allowed me to spend a lot of time with extracurriculars and pursuing work and research. So this past year, I got the opportunity to intern at a law firm the whole year, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I had gone to a traditional school. So I think my approach is a bit unconventional, but if that's something you're interested in, I think online learning gives you a lot of flexibility to pursue a lot of meaningful extracurriculars that may take up a lot of time.
Okay, I've been like really bad with time management my whole life. Like I procrastinate everything. But my one tip for kind of trying to balance school, extracurriculars, and social life is, I guess, like try to find what time of day you're most productive at. So I know a lot of people told me to just like get all of my work done, like homework wise, extracurriculars, like right after school. But for me, that didn't work because I was like always so exhausted after school, and I was just so tired. So for me personally, I found that I have the most focused and I'm the most productive like later in the evening, like around 7 to 8. So just yeah, later, which my mom is not happy with because I stay up really late. But so what I do is kind of save the work that takes up the most of my time. So like writing essays, studying for a huge test later in the night, and then I'll do the things that take up less time or energy, like doing vocab early in the day. And then I can probably multitask those, maybe like going to like a coffee shop with friends to do those, or like watching Netflix or something like that. So I'm still able to kind of enjoy my day, but get all of my work done just by finding what time I work best throughout the day.
No, yeah, I agree. I'm much more similar to Angela in the sense like I'm a huge procrastinator as well. I was always up to like my average like sleep was like 5 hours probably throughout high school, honestly. But at least like for my senior year, I tried to like get it more in control. So what I started doing was like getting the larger projects done sooner. So because like I would say my freshman, sophomore year, I was more like doing huge projects the night that it was due, and they never turned out good. Kind of hit my GPA a little bit, but I would try to finish like large essays, big projects like 2 weeks or 1 week in advance, and then I could have like more time for like the little like maybe math homework or Spanish vocab like at midnight or something like the night before. And then in terms of like balancing with like hanging out with your friends and stuff, I would say don't spread yourself too thin. I mean, you don't need to do the like most rigorous courses in your high school. I was in the IB program, which was a little bit difficult, but I still was able to, hang out with my friends on the weekends and then take care of myself as well, because your mental health is very important as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much. So now that it's like around 3:30, we wanted to open up the floor to live questions from our attendees. If anyone's interested in asking any questions right now, you can feel free to put any in the chat, or also private message me if you are not comfortable with sharing that. But I do have one in the chat right now, which is how did you research and evaluate which university programs were the best fit for you?
So I think it's really, oh, go ahead, Vivienne.
No, go for it, Lauren, don't worry.
I think it's really helpful to talk to current students and get a feel for the university, its culture and academics. So I knew a lot of people who had gone to St. Andrews from my high school. So I was able to talk to them and connect with some professors at the university and talk about what research opportunities I would have, look at the class syllabus and the course registration. So really talking to people and getting a first-hand look was really helpful.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. I have like a few cousins and friends that went to Toronto and they loved it. So I really got like a firsthand experience from them, and I visited and I loved the campus. But yeah, pretty much everything Lauren said. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add on to that. If you don't know someone personally that's going to that school, I would also recommend watching like YouTube videos. I know there are a ton of like college YouTubers that really like vlogging, like day in the life of a college student. So if you're interested in applying to that school and you want to see if that school's a good fit for you, maybe just see if there's any YouTubers that currently are a student that attends that school. I think that's really helpful. If you can't visit that school, I know a lot of colleges do have virtual tours as well. So that's also something I would definitely check out.
All right, thank you guys. Before I pass it to Beth to ask another chat question, I did get one direct question just to Lauren, which I think would be helpful to everyone, which is how did you get to do research with a professor? And I guess how did you get like an opportunity like that?
Sure. So I had a friend who had participated in this program. Actually, she also went to my high school, and she had recommended me to the program. It's called Pioneer Academics. So basically, you apply to the program, and they pass on your information to like their network of professors. And if it seems like a good fit, they basically match you with people that they have. So that's how I was able to get matched with a professor at Columbia School of International Affairs.
Great, thank you for sharing. That's really interesting. And then I'll let Beth pull another question from our chat.
Okay. Do you have any tips for interviews with alumni or admission officers?
I can probably start this one. For the schools that I applied to, I think 4 of them had alumni interviewers, and then for all of them, I can't confirm this because I'm not an admissions officer, but I don't think they carried that much weight in the overall decision process. I think the point of interviews really is just to see if you're an actual person with the personality, and not just where they just want to confirm that you are who you are, that you say you are in your paper application, or I guess online application. And then I guess just a few tips for the interview. I would definitely say I think they're gonna be online, at least they were for our year, but just do research, I guess, before your interview. So I would research maybe like an hour on the school before you join in on that interview, because you don't want to show up to your interview and not know anything about the school that you're applying to. And then also have a few questions prepared, not just, the basic interview questions that everyone asks, like, tell me about yourself, why do you want to go to this school, why you're a good fit, things like that. But also have a few questions prepared to ask your interviewer. So they are alumni. So like an easy thing to do is just to ask them about their experience at that school when they were a student, because hopefully that will bring back positive memories of their time as a student, and you'll leave a good impression on them just by asking them questions about their experiences.
To add on to Angela's initial point, with nearly all except one of the schools I applied to, the interviews were not important unless it's a small school or you're applying for a scholarship. Then I think it matters. But my interviewers told me that the interview would have no impact in the admissions process. And this was at Dartmouth, for example, where they said this is the interviews for the student, for them to get to know the university more. So I would not be concerned about that in the admissions process. There are other opportunities like your essays that are much more meaningful to your application.
I know I said this earlier. It was a little bit different for Canadian schools, at least in Ontario. I would say the interviews were a little bit more important because I didn't write essays, and your like grades as well. But like for like Toronto, for example, and like most of the Ontario schools, actually, they had like these, I keep saying these, like these timed essays, right? And then these interviews. I think most of the time they're just trying to see that you're an actual like human being and can like form sentences. I didn't think that they were too difficult. I don't know, maybe I'm just like underplaying them, but they were pretty easy, at least for me. And I wouldn't stress about them too much.
All right, thank you guys so much for answering that last question. I think we have time for one more before we start wrapping up. So a question from Sophie was, in terms of writing essays, did you guys have a more independent approach, or did you rely on feedback from friends or family, or maybe other outside help?
When I was writing my essays, I had only my friends help me. They would give me some feedback and edits, but they were all in university and good writers themselves. I know a lot of my friends who have also gone to top universities have hired college counselors. However, they're quite expensive and not always necessary. I'm not sure how schools do it outside of the boarding school community, but I know it was really common, at least at my boarding school, to hire a college counselor, but I personally did not. I don't think they're necessary either.
Yeah, I didn't use a college counselor either, but one thing I would recommend, I know there are a lot of YouTube channels and like essay help websites that do have some really good tips. So if you do want to check those out, I'm trying to remember, the Cath Path on YouTube was really good. And then also this girl named Dylan Nellis, both of those YouTube channels had really good tips for just drafting essays. And then just kind of like with my personal experience, I started writing like by myself, so I didn't really ask for help with like the brainstorming process. But when it came time to editing, I asked a few of my close friends in school. We all kind of like read each other's essays and gave each other feedback. And then like Lauren, I also asked a few of my upperclassmen friends who were already in university and had went through that process. And then if you're able to, I would also recommend maybe asking like an English teacher or your school's counselor if you are allowed to, and have them look at the essays as well, because most likely your counselors are a lot more familiar with the college application process, so that they might also be able to give you some feedback on that.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to what they're saying, kind of similar. When I was applying to like my US schools and like my UBC, I did get a college counselor. Especially I would say if you're not that great, like of a strong writer, I would say a counselor is helpful. But I don't think you need one. I have plenty of friends who got into like really prestigious schools without help. I would say the biggest thing was getting help from like friends and family who knew you best and knew like the writing was true to you. That's pretty much the best advice I could give, because when I was writing with my college counselor, she was pretty bad, not gonna lie. She was just trying to tell me to write these artificial things and I didn't feel good about them. So I like asked, my school teachers, my parents, stuff like that. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much. And I think that's all the time we have for questions. But before we move on, we did want to take a Zoom group picture. So if everyone is comfortable with taking or turning your camera on, that would be really great. Just for a second to take a group picture for this workshop.
Moving on to the next slide, we have our contact information for the panelists. If you would like to reach out to them later with any questions that we didn't get to today, I'll give you a few seconds to screenshot this. That slide includes their LinkedIn information, and I'll pass it back to Angelica.
Great, thank you so much, Beth. So I'll wrap up really quickly with a little Girls for Business plug, and I'll keep it short for everyone who's already been to a few events today, but we do have all of our socials on our screen right now. We have a lot of cool content planned for all of our social media accounts, and we have live updates going up for our conference right now. And you can just check us out on all of these sites, which we upload a lot of business news, helpful business tips, social media updates too. And yeah, so feel free to take a picture of this as well. And I'll go on to our next slide. And here are some ways you can get involved with our organization some more. There is a QR code you can scan that takes you to all of these different links, but you can join our mentorship program as a middle or high school student. Our mentee applications are open year round. You can also subscribe to our mailing list, Our subscribers receive bi-weekly newsletters featuring news and business, valuable career tips, and just more advice for students like us. And additionally, you can join our team. I would recommend applying for the outreach team. We do a lot of fun events, but all of our teams, most of our teams are open right now. And you can also become a Girls for Business ambassador if you're interested. So feel free to apply for any select team roles, and we would love to work with you guys in the future. And you can also join our community Slack, through which we network with girls with similar interests, and you can receive personal and professional advice from accomplished people from all around the world. So hopefully that was quick enough. That brings us to the end of Pursuing Business in College. Thank you so much to our 3 panelists and GFB alum for coming out today and sharing your business experiences with us all and all of your advice going into the college process. So thank you so much again, Angela, Lauren, and Vivienne, for taking the time out of your day to speak today. And again, a huge thank you to our attendees. If you would like to stay over for the next workshop that we have coming up, our business career fair, we can move you into the waiting room, or you can just join back in 15 minutes. But thank you so much for coming to this event, and we will see you soon if you're coming back. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.